This is the land we use for what historians might call the cradle of civilization, ancient Egypt. Hello, I'm Leo, and I'm on a quest to uncover all of the secrets that Egypt has buried in the sands of time. And one of those secrets pertains to pyramids, or as they're known in Egypt, well, pyramids. It means the same. And of course, as a certified history buff and amateur archaeologist, I've done my fair bit of research. Right, just off the top of my head, I've read about the Old Kingdom, the New Kingdom, and I think from that I've learned quite a few fascinating facts, so I know what I'm talking about. But when it comes to ancient Egypt, whether you're just looking for a quick history lesson or something more profound, it is worth learning that Egypt isn't necessarily what we've always thought it to be. And so without further ado, let us metaphorically dust off our ancient scrolls as I uncover the top 10 secrets of Egypt that will blow your mind. When I was out there for the first time on the Egyptian desert, living the explorer lifestyle on my research trip, the first confusing thing that I noticed is that the bent pyramid, and as it turns out, it's not just bent because of the heat. Sarah, what do you mean by that? Well, here's how the bent pyramid works. The bottom half of the pyramid rises at a steep 54-degree angle, but then suddenly changes to a shallower 43-degree angle about halfway up. Now, some experts believe this was due to structural issues during construction, forcing the builders to adjust their plans. But others, they think it might have been intentional, perhaps representing the Pharaohs' journey from Earth to the afterlife. Either way, it's a mystery that's had archaeologists scratching their heads for centuries. In Egypt, I don't know why my hand is still up there. In Egypt, it's a little bit different because that same pyramid that I'm looking at and talking about might hold even more secrets. See, the bent pyramid isn't just unusual in its shape. It's also one of the few pyramids that still has most of its smooth outer limestone casing intact. This has led some researchers to speculate that it might have been used as a sort of ancient observatory, with its unusual angles designed to track celestial bodies. Now, that's what I call thinking outside the box, ...
Ow.
Or should I say, outside the pyramid. And this is where those ancient mysteries really take shape. Or should I say size? Because there's one key rule on the whole: Egyptian mysteries tend to be bigger than their modern counterparts. And the reason for this, as we all know, is that Egypt out-ancients pretty much everyone else. But it's also because Egypt is about 4,000 years older than the United States. And so we just sort of cram things in fact, awkwardly. A tiny hidden chamber was where I first encountered the idea of the lost labyrinth of Egypt. Ancient Greek historian Herodotus described a massive underground complex with 3,000 rooms full of hieroglyphs and paintings. But here's the kicker: we haven't found it yet. Modern archaeologists have used ground-penetrating radar in the Hawara area, where the labyrinth is supposed to be, and they've detected some promising anomalies. But whether we'll ever uncover this legendary maze is still up in the air. It's like trying to find a needle in a haystack, except the haystack is made of sand, and the needle is an entire underground city. See, Egyptian mysteries like the lost labyrinth or the purpose of the pyramids are just bigger. I mean, they'd have to be, right? Especially given what we've discovered on this channel about the differences in ancient and modern construction techniques. And of course, a pyramid is not the only place in Egypt where you'd find mysteries. In addition to the pyramids, the temples, and in desperate times, the tombs, which should prompt nobody to ask me about the mummy incident of 1922. There is also the Great Pyramid of Giza, and I know what you're thinking. Yes, Sarah, the Great Pyramid is just a big tomb. Well, firstly, that's not always true. And secondly, that's not where I was going with this. I was actually going to mention the pyramid power theory. Because while in modern times, we see the Great Pyramid as a marvel of ancient engineering, some believe it was much more than that. There's a theory that suggests the Great Pyramid was actually an ancient power plant. Now, before you roll your eyes, hear me out. Proponents of this theory point to the pyramid's unique internal structure, its alignment with the Earth's magnetic field, and even trace amounts of zinc and iron found in its stones. They argue that these elements could have been used to conduct electricity. Is it far-fetched? Maybe. But in the land of the Pharaohs, sometimes truth is stranger than fiction. King Tut's tomb is of course found in the Valley of the Kings and through much of our archaeological history. But never more do I need to talk about it than when discussing hidden chambers. So because of this, it is worth remembering some of the key differences between what we know and what we still discovering. Don't take my word for it. Instead, listen to me from last year. It was once said by me, in just a second from now, that you can tell a lot about a tomb by what is hidden inside it, and given its unparalleled record of boasting larger treasures than everyone else. King Tut's tomb might fancy its chances of winning the My Tomb S bigger than your tomb debate. But the truth is, and you might find this shocking, King Tut's tomb might be even bigger than we thought. You can't talk about King Tut's tomb without talking about hidden chambers. Hidden chambers are the secret rooms that keep archaeologists up at night like kids waiting for Christmas. And the only reason I made a Christmas simile there was to draw your attention to the fact that discovering a new chamber in King Tut's tomb would be like finding an extra present under the tree long after you thought you'd de-opened them all. Anyway, there are several key differences in this department. On the surface, King Tut's tomb seems fully explored. But radar scans have suggested there might be a hidden chamber behind the north wall of the burial chamber. Some experts believe this could be the long-lost tomb of Queen Nefertiti. How do I know that? Because I've been following this story since 2015. And let me tell you, it's more suspenseful than any Netflix series. But whereas King Tut's tomb is decidedly mysterious, that's not always the case in Egypt. Sure, some discoveries, like the ones whose significance look like surprised archaeologists, definitely do have 3 layers of mystery. But some artifacts, which are easily the more outgoing and competitive of the two, are bipolar, due to the manner in which each discovery feeds into new theories. There's also a difference in how they hang in the balance of historical significance. In Egypt, the importance hangs vertically from discovery to theory, thus making it harder to yank from the realm of possibility by pulling on loose threads. And the horizontal connection of modern interpretations means that you can do this in theory, but it's not recommended. One of the biggest concerns for historians visiting Egypt, aside from being forced to eat sand, is the great Egyptian technological divide. In ancient times, technological capability is categorized as primitive, while it's generally advanced in modern times. Moreover, ancient Egyptian electricity operates on a theoretical frequency and modern on 50 or 60 hertz. What does all of this mean? Well, let us just say that you want to use your modern understanding in ancient Egypt, but it doesn't run on the same wavelength, or is not dual interpretable, or is incompatible with ancient thinking. In that instance, you'll need to run to the library to pick up some historical context. Historical context will convert your modern understanding to the mindset of ancient Egyptians. In the event that your historical context doesn't come with a cultural adapter, be sure to also pick up one of these. This cultural adapter is magic. It allows you to turn your modern perspective into an ancient Egyptian worldview. For modern visitors to ancient Egypt, the same applies, but in reverse. Step back in time might also be needed to safely use modern devices in ancient Egypt. Both are widely available for historians and enthusiasts in good books and documentaries. I'd say the most obvious difference between ancient and modern Egypt is the technology. When I first studied ancient Egyptian artifacts, I couldn't believe how advanced they were, and not in a Morgan Freeman type way. I mean, this was the Dendera light bulb I'm talking about. Ancient carvings in the Hathor temple at Dendera appeared to depict what looks suspiciously like a modern light bulb. Some researchers argue that this is evidence that the ancient Egyptians had knowledge of electricity. Now, mainstream archaeologists disagree, interpreting the carvings as representations of mythological symbols. But you have to admit, those carvings do look eerily like light bulbs. It's enough to make you wonder if the ancient Egyptians were plugged into something we still in the dark about. As with many areas of life, Egypt is its own subgenre of historical versus modern word differences. Take, for instance, the name that we assign to that helpful guide who helps you with your tour when you checking out the pyramids. In modern Egypt and much of the rest of the world, this person is known as a tour guide. This is the word we use for what ancient Egyptians might have called a priest or a scribe. Also, whether it's situated on the ground or underground, historians and archaeologists also agree on what you call that area of the tomb that you enter. Upon entering ancient Egypt, we usually opt for the word antechamber. Please note that historians, just like patrons on my most recent secret stream, are divided on whether this should be pronounced antechamber or antechamber. Either way, archaeologists will often call this area the vestibule. More often than not, historians will call a sarcophagus a sarcophagus. Archaeologists will call a sarcophagus a coffin. While historians have about 100 words for a burial chamber, chief among these are tomb, crypt, sepulchre, or mausoleum. And finally, curse. This is something I've encountered far more in Egyptian archaeology than I have in modern Egypt. This is a supernatural belief offered at tombs, in which you pay with your life for disturbing the dead. But the use of curse might be confusing to some modern folks. You might think of a curse, often pronounced curse, as a mild inconvenience, a fine example of which is the character of the Mummy, from Hollywood's The Mummy movies that I somehow keep mentioning in my videos just by coincidence. Speaking of curses, let's talk about the cursed black sarcophagus. In 2018, archaeologists in Alexandria uncovered a massive black granite sarcophagus. Now, this wasn't just any old coffin. This thing was huge, weighing in at 30 tons and dating back to the Ptolemaic period. But here's where it gets spooky. When they opened it, they found 3 skeletons swimming in red liquid. Cue the curse theories. Some people were convinced that opening the sarcophagus would unleash an ancient curse. Spoiler alert, it didn't. The red liquid turned out to be sewage that had seeped in, and the skeletons were likely just soldiers. But for a moment there, it felt like we were living in a real-life version of the Mummy. Talk about a plot twist. Now, let's climb to new heights with the Great Pyramid's secret doors. You'd think after thousands of years we'd know everything there is to know about the Great Pyramid, but you'd be wrong. In 2002, a robot named Pyramid Rover crawled up a narrow shaft in the Great Pyramid and found a door. But wait, there's more. In 2011, another robot found yet another door behind the first one. It's like the pyramid is playing hard to get. What's behind these doors? Nobody knows. It could be anything from ancient artifacts to ... well, more doors. It's the archaeological equivalent of a Russian nesting doll, and it's driving researchers nuts. Let's float an idea by you. The floating stones of Karnak. The ancient Egyptians built some truly massive structures, and we're still not entirely sure how they did it. One theory suggests they might have used water to their advantage. The idea is that they could have used a series of locks and canals to float massive stone blocks right to where they needed them. It's like ancient Egypt had its own version of Amazon Prime delivery, but for 70-ton stones. Some experiments have shown this method could work, but we're still not sure if this is how they actually did it. Either way, it's a reminder that sometimes the simplest solutions can move mountains. ... Or at least really big rocks. Now here's a hand-why mystery. The mummified giant hand. In 2017, the internet was abuzz with reports of a massive mummified hand discovered in Egypt. We're talking about a hand so big it would make basketball players feel inadequate. Some people took this as proof that giants once roamed ancient Egypt. But hold your horses. This story turned out to be a hoax, part of a viral marketing campaign for a video game. It just goes to show that not all that glitters is gold, not all that's mummified is real. Last but not least, let's talk about the tomb that shouldn't exist. In 2018, archaeologists stumbled upon something extraordinary, a 4,400-year-old tomb that looked like it was built yesterday. This wasn't just any tomb. It belonged to a high-ranking priest named Wadi and was adorned with colorful hieroglyphs and statues in near-perfect condition. It was so well preserved that it left researchers scratching their heads. How could something so old look so new? Some have suggested that the ancient Egyptians might have had some kind of lost technology for preservation that we still do and understand. Whatever the reason, this tomb is a time capsule that's rewriting what we thought we knew about ancient Egyptian craftsmanship. That's it for this video. Let me know in the comments below some of the Egyptian mysteries that fascinate you. I'm Sarah Johnson. You can follow me on Twitter at lost_in_Egypt. And do even forget to subscribe to my channel so that my videos don't get buried in the sands of time. Thank you to my patrons for literally making this video happen. If you would like to support this channel, you can do so today at patreon.com/EgyptianMysteries. Until the next video, goodbye, or as they say in ancient Egyptian Seneti,